Have you ever nodded along during a wine tasting, listening to somebody talk about body or texture, having no idea what they're talking about? Don't worry, you probably aren't the only one faking it. So today we're going to break down the classic terms you often hear when a sommelier is describing wine. We're going to talk about acidity, body, texture, tannins, finish, and stick around to the end because I'll give you a helpful tip to help you train your palate. So we're going to start with acidity. So it's very difficult. Everybody's perception of acidity is different. So what's low for you? What's high? Well, take a glass of water and also take a lemon. Drink the water by itself. You'll notice that it's quite neutral. And then squeeze a little bit of lemon in. You'll get a sense of it being a bit more tangy. Squeeze a bit more. It's going to be more mouth-watering. Squeeze a lot in and it's going to eventually get quite sharp, quite sour. So that is the sensation in your mouth of low to high acidity. Sommeliers will use terms when they're trying to describe a wine that's low acidity, like soft or round, low, smooth. Then when you get more into medium, medium-high, fresh, vibrant, lively, crisp, these are all words that come up. And then when we're talking about super high acidity, they'll pull out terms like bracing or piercing or racy. And that's when you know it's really high acidity. So you can gauge that and get a sense of what you like. Next up, we'll talk about body and texture. So body is just really the perception of weight on your palate. That might seem like it's a hard thing for you to judge, but think about when you're drinking a glass of skim milk versus drinking some heavy cream. The heavy cream feels thicker, feels fuller on the palate. And this doesn't mean that light-bodied wines have less flavor. It just means that they're a little bit leaner. Texture is closely related to body. It's just the way that body, that weight feels on the palate. Does it glide across like silk, or does it feel a bit more rough, a bit more coarse? And texture is often related, not always, but often related to tannins. So tannins are natural compounds that are found in grape skins, in seeds, in stems, and you often get tannins more often in red wines because red wines macerate during the fermentation. They're on their skins, whereas whites are pressed off and fermented afterwards for the most part. So tannins are flavorless, but they do give wine texture. So a low tannin is going to feel very smooth, whereas a very high tannin is going to feel much more astringent, sort of bitter, kind of drying. Sort of like if you were eating an unripe banana or if you left some black tea to steep for too long, it's that same sensation. And you can get a sense of what you like by testing different wines, of course. Typical wines that have high tannins, Nebbiolos, Cabernet Sauvignon, Syrah, for example. And over time, those tannins in a well-made wine should soften. Finally, we're going to talk about finish. And this is the very last impression before and after you swallow a wine. It's the flavors, it's the texture, it's that whether the wine is quite dry or more on the sweet side. And in the long run, that finish is all about length. Do those flavors and textures fade away the second you swallow, or do they actually linger for quite a while? And that is a sense, it really gives you a sense of quality. The more those flavors linger, generally the higher quality wine, the more complex the wine. So your tip is it's easier to get a sense of all these things, to gauge body and texture, tannin, finish, all these things, if you have a little bit of quiet. In a crowded space with lots of talking or, strong cooking smells, you're not really going to be able to focus. So I'm not suggesting drinking by yourself, but maybe just stepping out to a quiet room for your first sip or two. And you'll be really surprised by how much more enjoyment you can get out of a glass of wine if you just take a second to think about what you're drinking. So if you like this video, please do give me a little thumbs up, send me a comment, ask a question. I love to answer those, and subscribe. Until next time, santé.